Lesson 46. No articles in Russian. In the last lesson, we learned about definite articles and indefinite articles. We learned that the word the is the definite article, a or an is the indefinite article. And here's the big thing you need to know for this particular lesson. Russian does not have articles like we do in English. In Russian, there is no word for the, there is no word for a, there is no word for an. So we're going to be having nouns in Russian that just sit there by themselves without any kind of article to introduce them. So for example, if you see the word pilot in Russian, it's just going to be that noun sitting there by itself. It's never going to have an article like the or a. So when you're translating that word, when you're trying to figure out what that word means, that word could mean pilot. It could mean a pilot. It could mean the pilot. You don't really know unless there's some kind of context telling you what the intended meaning is for that word. So this presents a challenge from an interpretive standpoint, from the standpoint of trying to translate Russian or figure out what Russian is saying. If you see some written Russian or if a person is speaking Russian, you have to try to figure out what the intended meaning is. And so it's helpful to be able to express it in your own language, to be able to translate it into English. And so that's what this lesson is all about, is examining the difference between English and Russian. In English, we do have articles. In Russian, they don't. So how do we handle that difference? So let's take a look at some of these exercises. We're going to fill in the blank and try to figure out if a definite article belongs there or an indefinite article or no article at all. And then we're going to explain our choice. So in exercise 1, we have where is blank book? Would we say where is book? Would we just leave out the article altogether? No, that wouldn't sound like very good English. Could we say where is a book? Maybe, but that doesn't sound like a very common thing you would say in English. Probably what would be best here is where is the book? Judging from the context of the sentence, the word the is probably the word that would fit in the blank there. What about number 2? Rice is my favorite food. Would we say the rice is my favorite food? No, that doesn't sound like good English. How about a rice is my favorite food? No, that doesn't make any sense either. Based on the context of the sentence, this particular word, rice, does not need an article. We see this a lot with words that you can't count. Rice is something you can't count. It's just a substance that you have differing amounts of. So number 2 would just say, rice is my favorite food. In number 3, when you go to school, do you take the pencil or a pencil or just pencil? Well, based on the context, the idea is that you take some undefined pencil with you. So probably the best way to put it is, I always take a pencil. In number 4, Pat doesn't like to mow the lawn or a lawn or just lawn. Probably the lawn, based on the context of the sentence, that's the one that sounds best. In number 5, when you take a trip to Canada, do you say that you're taking a trip to the Canada or a Canada? No, it's the name of a country. It's a proper name, a proper noun. So you don't need to have an article in front of it. You don't need to say the Canada. So based on the context, we would just leave out the article there. Well, by now you get the idea. You have to just use the context of the sentence to figure out what is being expressed and how to express that in English so that you can translate Russian into English. And here's a sneak preview of what you're going to see in Russian. For example, in exercise 1, in Russian, you would just say, where is book? That's how you would word it in Russian. Again, in Russian, there are no articles. There's no the, there's no a, there's no an. So you would just say, where is book? Again, in number 3, if you want to say, I always take a pencil, in Russian, you would literally say, I always take pencil, because there simply is no article. It's just, I always take pencil. So as a student of Russian, you need to get accustomed to this kind of wording, the fact that nouns simply do not have articles. And this is the reason why, when you hear a Russian person learning English, oftentimes a native Russian speaker will leave out the article when he or she speaks English. So if you hear a Russian person learning English and that person wants to say that he always takes a pencil, he might say, I always take pencil, because that's naturally the way he would word that sentence in Russian. So this is a big thing that you're going to have to get accustomed to, is the fact that Russian does not have articles, and that you're going to have to try to interpret what is being said based on the context of the sentence.